A Christian is ... I wonder how you'd finish that sentence. That's the question we started off with at Story last night. It was our second time together. We had a great time again thinking about that question. A Christian is what? I wonder what came to mind as I asked that question. Maybe you think of someone like the Pope or the Archbishop of Canterbury, a kind of high clerical religious figure. Maybe you think of the televangelists on TV, kind of waving the wads of cash with the microphone and their kind of slightly smarmy grins. Maybe you think of, I know, the Vicar of Dibley or Ned Flanders from TV. Just really nice, but a bit bumbling, a bit silly, to be honest. What is a Christian? That's the question we opened with. And Jesus tells a story, a very familiar story that we looked at last week, that helps us to unpack that question just a little bit more. It was a story of two sons and their father. The youngest son treats his dad awfully. He goes up to his dad and says, "Dad, I want my inheritance now," which means I want you dead now. I want to go. But then we saw that the father, actually treats this son amazingly, astonishingly. When the son comes back and says, "Dad, I'm really sorry for what I did," he's welcomed back. And then there's the older brother, who has been at home the whole time, who's been working hard all these years that his younger brother, has been wasting the money with prostitutes and parties. Well, the older brother has been working hard on the family farm. And he's not too happy when his younger brother comes back. Well, last week we looked at the father in particular in the story and saw how in many ways he's a wonderful picture of what God looks like as he turns up in the person of Jesus. Far from the kind of restrictive God that we imagine, he's a running, restoring God who welcomes anyone back. But last night we zoomed in on two characters, the two sons, really to show us what a Christian is and what a Christian isn't. And if you take these two sons, the youngest son and the oldest son, what a contrast. I mean, the youngest son, he basically says, "Dad, I want my money." He runs off to a faraway country and he wastes it in parties and lavish living. Well, the older son is really different. The older son stuck it out on the farm. He slaved away all day and he stuck with his dad, whereas the other said, "Shove off, Dad." What a contrast. Well, at least on the face of it. But when you dig into the story and begin to see what's inside the hearts of these two brothers, well, you see actually that they're pretty much the same. Sure, it looks a little bit different, but both of them are runaways at heart. See, the youngest son, well, he had the guts to run away. He thought his dad would restrict him, so he ran away. But the older son, he'd have liked to have run away. Right at the end of the story, we find him complaining about slaving away for his father all these years and not receiving anything. See, both of them actually viewed their father just the same way, using him for his things and his money and not for him. And that's the shock of the story, that there are two ways to run away. Because at the end of the story, things are really very different. Did you notice that the youngest son, who went far away, ends up inside the family house with a party and a celebration? But where's the older brother? Well, he's out in the field sulking because he can hear the music and he can hear the party and he's angry. So much so that his dad has to come out to him and say, "Son, come on in, your younger brother's back. Come on in and join the party." And he won't. He refuses to go in. And there we have the irony of the story. The badly behaved boy, well, he's back in the family. And then you have the well-behaved boy, who's actually on the outside. So what's the point of this parable? What's the point of this story? Every parable packs a punch. What's this one? Well, of course, for the younger sons of the day, for the sinners, the wild rebels of the day, Jesus is extending open hands and saying, actually, there's nothing you could have done, no matter how bad, that you couldn't come back to God. In fact, that's what Jesus did, isn't it? It's Jesus comes on earth, walks on earth, lives the perfect life, dies a sin-bearing death, and then rises from the dead. What's he doing? He's being like the Father, saying, I will have anyone back no matter what you've done, no matter who you are. If you're like that younger son, well, you can come back now, come back today, and you'll be fully in the family. And that's the kind of extended hand that Jesus offers. But actually, the parable packs a bigger punch than that. It's like a big punch in the face for the older sons, the religious leaders, the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. People who were, well behaved in his day and in our day. And to them in this story, Jesus is saying, don't be like the older son. See, there's nothing you could have done that is so good that would make up for refusing mercy. Jesus is saying this to the people of his time and to you and to me, that there are two ways to get lost. One looks pretty wild, one looks pretty respectable, but we're all runaways. There are two ways to get lost, but there's only one way to get found, to get rescued, to get in God's family. And that is to receive Jesus, who, like the Father, comes running, extends his hand and will have us back. Two ways to get lost, only one way to be found. What will you do? Perhaps that's raised for you more questions than answers. The claims that Jesus makes are huge, aren't they? And we'd love you to come along next week to identity, as we start working through week by week through the Gospel of John, with the big questions of identity, of who we are and of who God is. Each session will consist of a short talk about the claims of Jesus, a bit of time for discussion, looking at a particular Bible passage, something that Jesus said or did, as well as having a short slot thinking about some of the big objections to Christianity. For example, Christianity and science, do they fit? Or what about other religions? Or how do you cope in a world of pain and suffering? Identity is starting next week, and please get in touch, look on the website, email me, and we'd love to tell you more. We'd love to give you a link so you can join us on Zoom. Hopefully we'll see you there.